In a world filled with athletes, there are legends, and then there's Deion Sanders. He wasn't just an athlete, he was a cultural phenomenon. Sanders etched his name in the annals of history as the only player to hit a home run and score a touchdown in the same week, and as the singular star to grace both the World Series and the Super Bowl. But it wasn't just his athletic prowess that made Deion unforgettable. It was his charisma, his flair, and his larger-than-life personality that transformed him into primetime. So, buckle up and join us on a journey through the greatness of Deion Sanders, a man who not only changed the game, but rewrote the rules. But before we begin, we would like you guys to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell icon so you do not miss out on amazing and entertaining content. Before he was primetime, Deion Lewin Sanders was just a kid with big dreams growing up in Fort Myers, Florida. Born in 1967, Deion lived a challenging childhood. His parents divorced when he was a toddler, and his father battled drug addiction until his death from a brain tumor in 1993. But Deion found refuge on the baseball diamond and football field, where his natural talent quickly shone through. Even as a young kid, Deion was competing in organized sports. In high school at North Fort Myers, he was all-state in 3 sports. He could score at will on the basketball court. After dropping 30 points one night, a friend gave him the nickname Primetime, which totally went with his flashy style. For college, Deion decided to stay close to home at Florida State. He led the baseball team to the College World Series and the football squad to a major bowl game. He even tried out basketball briefly, but eventually focused on just football and baseball. If that wasn't enough, he joined the track team too and helped them win a conference title. Deion finished his Florida State career as a 2-time All-American defensive back with 14 interceptions and the 1988 Jim Thorpe Award. The Atlanta Falcons drafted him 5th overall in 1989, thinking he would only play football. But Deion had other plans. That same year, he signed with the New York Yankees and was playing minor league baseball in the summer. When he got called up to the big leagues, he homered in his very first game against the Mariners. Just a week later, after finally agreeing to deal with the Falcons, he returned a punt for a touchdown, the only athlete to ever hit a home run and score a touchdown in the same week. Baseball didn't come as naturally to Deion though. He clashed with old school players and had some infamous moments like dumping ice water on a broadcaster's head. After struggling to hit for the Yankees, they released him in 1990. Deion found more success with the Atlanta Braves, helping them reach the World Series in 1992 where he batted over .500. His best MLB season came with the Reds in 1997 when he had 127 hits and 56 stolen bases before taking a few years off from baseball. He briefly returned in 2001 but hit just .173 in his final season. Football was a totally different story though. After 5 seasons with the Falcons, Deion signed a 1-year deal with the 49ers in 1994. He tied a franchise record with 3 pick sixes, won Defensive Player of the Year, and led them to a Super Bowl win. The only athlete to ever play in both the World Series and Super Bowl. The very next season, he signed a huge $35 million deal with the Dallas Cowboys and led them to another championship. Deion made history playing both cornerback and wide receiver, the first NFL player to do that in nearly 40 years. While he never won another ring after Dallas, Deion continued shutting down receivers well into his 30s. After the Cowboys released him in 2000, he played one final season with the Washington Commanders at age 34, snagging 4 more interceptions before retiring. Once he hung up his cleats, Deion pursued coaching and TV analyst work. Most recently, he was the head coach at Jackson State from 2020 to 2022, leading the team to 2 Celebration Bowl appearances. Near the end of the 2022 season, he was named head coach at the University of Colorado. Not bad for a guy who started out in Little Fort Myers. Deion was truly one of a kind. His flashy persona and primetime nickname were legendary. Today's corners still try to emulate his style with grills, towels, high socks, but there will only ever be one number 21. Even the GOAT Jerry Rice admitted to losing sleep before facing primetime. That's the type of dread Deion put into opposing offenses. Teams would simply avoid his entire side of the field because throwing his way was asking for trouble. Yet, for some reason, Deion rarely gets brought up in debates about the greatest players ever. It's always Montana, Jim Brown, etc. But why not primetime? He revolutionized the cornerback position and influenced the culture of the entire sport. When today's receivers celebrate touchdowns, they imitate guys like Rice and Moss. But every cornerback still dreams of locking down like Sanders. His showboating style became the new mold for defensive backs. Just look around at the arm waves, high steps, and shuffles you see today. That's vintage Deion. He didn't just impact his own position either. Deion changed the entire swagger and flash of the sport. The do-rags, wave caps, white socks, towels. He pioneered that trend. No other player has altered the style and flair of football more than primetime. In the modern era, he's the only two-way starter too, shutting down the opposing team's best receiver, then switching over to offense. Imagine asking Jerry Rice to lock down Deion Sanders. Deion lined up against legends like Rice, Irvin, and Carter in their prime, and won those matchups more often than not. That's what made him great. He covered the greatest. If Rice is considered the GOAT, what does that make the guy who could neutralize him? When it comes to the draft, the experts always talk about the next Deion Sanders at cornerback. Guys like Charles Woodson and Champ Bailey, as great as they were, are compared to primetime. Not other legends like Rod Woodson or Mike Haynes. Deion is the undisputed top dog at his position. If you're a top cornerback prospect, you're compared to Neon Deion. And the crazy thing is, for most of his career, football was just a side hustle for Prime. He'd play baseball during the summer and not even bother showing up to training camp or preseason games for his NFL team. Then, he'd just waltz in right before the season started and instantly lock down the league's best receivers again. Could you imagine if Jerry Rice decided to play pro basketball for half the year instead of prepping for football? There's no way he'd step back onto the gridiron and dominate like nothing happened. But Deion made it look so easy. When it comes to scoring touchdowns, primetime is the only player in NFL history to do it in every single way possible. Returns, catches, rushes, interceptions, fumble recoveries, you name it. Deion took it to the house. Anytime he got his hands on the ball, there was a legitimate threat he'd end up doing his signature high step into the end zone. In the modern era, Sanders is the only two-way starter too. He'd lock down the opposing team's #1 receiver on defense, then switch over to offense and catch passes. Could you even fathom asking Jerry Rice to shut down Deion Sanders on defense? It's laughable. Even just one matchup was too much for Jerry to handle. That's how incredible Prime was. And it's not like Deion was locking down scrubs. He was covering bona fide legends like Rice, Michael Irvin, and Chris Carter, some of the greatest receivers ever. That too in their prime. If you consider Rice to be the GOAT, that should tell you something about the guy who could take him out of the game. Next time the greatest ever debate comes up, Deion deserves strong consideration. He was an all-time great talent with a legendary primetime persona who changed the culture of the sport. So, as we wrap things up, there's no doubt that Deion Sanders was truly one of a kind. Let me know in the comments, where does Neon Deion rank for you among the greatest athletes of all time? Which was more impressive? His shutdown defense locking up receivers, or his flashy home run power at the plate? And if you want to see more of these types of videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.